Welcome to New Life Live, the premier place to receive free advice from Christian psychologists and counselors for the mental, emotional, relational, and spiritual challenges you face. Since 1988, we've offered compassionate responses that combine God's truth with proven psychological principles to guide you toward healing. Our phone lines are open. Call us now at 1-800-229-3000.
Thank you for choosing to spend your Friday with us here on New Life Live. I'm your host, Brian Perez. Looking forward to speaking to you as you call in to get assistance for living out the life that God has called on you to do. And with me in the studio today, we've got Dr. Jill Hubbard. She's a clinical psychologist. How are you, Jill?
Hi, good, Brian.
Great to have you here. And we've got licensed marriage and family therapist Chris Williams joining us as well. How are you, Chris?
I'm doing great. Great to be here with you guys.
We're going to talk to Cher in just a little bit, but I think Jill has something she would like to share first.
Well, yes, I would like to kind of throw out the topic of self-control. And, you know, this is a fruit of the Spirit, Galatians 5:22, right? And those are things that we want to emulate and have more of in our life. But I think about self-control, and it's really not natural. Mm-hmm. This is, you know, it's not natural, but it's actually very supernatural. Yeah. And we need God's power to really exercise it. And I think it's one of those fruits that we have to work at. You know, last night when my little kitten peed on the couch, she had no self-control. I was very upset with her. But I do have the ability to have self-control. I don't go around doing that, by the way. But I think about it in our most significant relationships, right? And often, Chris, when we're working with couples or with families, you see the lack of self-control that constantly erupts. And so this is something that we have to continually work on. And when we are in those places of fight or flight or freeze, or in hyperarousal or in hypoarousal, right? We're either revved up or we're shut down. We're not able to have the type of self-control that we need to really thoughtfully engage in relationship with another person.
That's so good.
Right?
Absolutely.
And when we're all by ourselves, I mean, one of the things about single life that I have lived a number of years, when you're by yourself, you know, you can go, wow, I'm doing really well. I'm doing great. Look at all my self-control. And then when another person enters your personal space, right, and you have to now share with another person, suddenly you can see that, you know, you don't do as well. And we all, in our most significant relationships, regress. We become our most primitive selves.
Yeah.
And so this idea of self-control and being more intentional about it. Often when I'm working with couples, when tensions are high, and I remember back when I was in my mid-20s and I was first married, and just how naive I was, right? And how that lack of self-control on both sides, you know, you can end up being almost like fighting like siblings. Yeah. And I see that so often in couples, and I often tell them, if you can break the moment, even for a moment, go to the restroom and come back so that your mind has a chance to come back to kind of the center adult processing level, then you can engage more thoughtfully with your partner. You can show self-control and you can take turns, but somebody has to initiate that, because if both people are flaring up, it just doesn't work.
Well, and to your point, Jill, I think there's two things at work. There's our humanness, which self-control is a muscle that has to be worked out over and over and over again. But also it's unnatural. So it's a function of the fruit of the Spirit, not the fruit of Chris.
Yes.
So going to God all the time and letting Him direct our thoughts, our hearts, our decisions, and submitting to His will is hard and difficult, but essential to develop that skill of self-control.
Yes.
Great conversation to start our program today. Cher, we're going to talk to you in a moment here on New Life Live.
I went to Every Man's Battle in 2012. My sexual integrity was not what it should have been. I sought out affairs, whether physical or emotional. Until I came to Every Man's Battle, I didn't understand that would never fill that void.
Every day, men struggle with sexual integrity. Impure thoughts, strip clubs, affairs, pornography.
The shame and guilt was overwhelming.
For over 20 years, New Life Ministries has been helping men regain their integrity and purity through their one-of-a-kind Every Man's Battle Intensive.
You will discover what the true root of your pain is, and you will discover how to overcome.
You don't have to struggle any longer. Get help in Dallas, Texas, July 18th through the 20th. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE to register or to find out more. 1-800-639-5433 or online at newlife.com. Enter the code NLL for a discount.
Every Man's Battle saved my life.
1-800-NEW-LIFE and the discount code NLL. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
And let's go to Denver, Colorado. Here is Cher, who's listening to us online at newlife.com. Welcome to the program, Cher. How can we help you today?
Hi, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today. I have a question about, I know the Boundaries in Dating book says to have a zero tolerance for deception or lying. Is it lying if someone tells me my experience is not what I say it is, and they weren't there when it happened, and they just heard about it from me? I told them about what was going on with a younger sister of mine, and two of the coaches I've spoken with, they both think that she's some type of abuser or like a covert abuser. And so when I tried explaining to him like what was going on, he was telling me like that she didn't do that. I'm the one that does that to her, or that it's no big deal.
Your sister is saying that?
No, my friend. I know I brought up the Boundaries in Dating book, but I'm applying this to like a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess I'm looking for like long term. I'm looking for like more long term. Is this like a safe person? Is it not?
That's a great question.
That is a great question.
So have you ever heard of the term gaslighting?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it applied because I had been abused before by my father, and it was nothing like that. My father was very like intentional about it and made sure that it was a torture method.
But Cher, let me just jump in and say and define it for you. Gaslighting is a form of deception where I get you to question your reality. Mm-hmm. Okay. That is definitive. It's a very dangerous and destructive form of deception. And so when you go through an experience and you know it's true, you feel it's true, you know, it's not to say all of your interpretations are accurate. It doesn't matter.
True.
You went through it and it was your experience, and I say, well, no, that didn't happen. You're wrong on that. And I get you to question your own reality. Again, that is a very, very unhealthy, unsafe, and dangerous technique called gaslighting.
Okay, so that would fit under what the Boundaries in Dating book was talking about having zero tolerance for deception.
Well, part of this is saying that And Cher, there's a lot underneath this. Let me just call this out. You know, you dropped a line earlier about the abuse that you have suffered under your father. So one of the things of connecting to reality is that we have to have a level of trust. And it just sounds like in your experience of life with other people, it has not been very trustworthy. In fact, it's been the opposite. It's been very hurtful. So you're searching around, what do I do now? Now you look at this absolute statement that says, you know, you have to have zero tolerance for deception. Well, everyone's going to be deceived or be deceiving at some form or level at a time. Mm-hmm. But it's really about, like, how do you see deception and also say that that's not okay and we need to get reality. We need to get truth.
Yeah, with your friend here, I see why it's a little confusing, because it sounds like your friend wasn't there. She didn't have witnessed the experience, but she has an opinion about the person you're talking about. And she's using her opinion as if it's fact. And so I think sometimes we have to say, I hear that that's your opinion about this person. However, this is my experience. Now, if you're naming what happened, like Chris said, sometimes when we give motivation or reinterpret what someone has done, well, they did this because they're evil, or they did this because they wanted to deceive, right? We may not know that. We may not know the why, but we do know what we experienced, and we do know how we felt. And so sometimes we have to be able to be a better advocate for ourselves and to see, like in a relationship like this, is this someone who's just not going to listen to us at all and just always shuts us down? Well, then that isn't a safe friend. But is this someone that you could say, friend, I hear your opinion, but this is my experience. And I understand you've not experienced this, but can you see how this was hurtful for me? And they might be able to say, well, yeah, if that is how you perceived it, I could see that would be really hurtful.
Yeah.
Right? Regardless of who the person is or what they think about them. And so can you talk through something with this friend? Will they listen? Are they willing to listen? Can you ask them to just listen? Can you tell them what you need from them and ask them to support you? Now, they may say, you know what, I really like this person and this is just hard for me to hear. Okay, well, that's honest feedback. Maybe they're not the person to share this with. And they're not a total write-off as a friend. So I think you have to do a little more exploration.
Yeah.
But certainly, if someone has done something to you directly and they deny it, right? Or you're saying, wow, you stepped on my toe. No, I didn't. You must have tripped. Well, wait a minute, right? That's trying to mess with your reality. You never want to be with people that mess with your reality and anything significant.
And I think that's really important what you said there, Jill, is that, Cher, you need friends who are loving, meaning they can empathize with your experience. They can see you and understand you in your pain or in your hurt. And they can be people that are truthful. Love and truth go hand in hand. To reinterpret that in the first chapter of John, it's like Jesus came in the fullness of truth and grace. And grace and truth. One did not have to be sacrificed for the other. In fact, they held hands and coexisted incredibly well together. And that becomes this foundation of trust and security when we have both of those things working together.
Cher, what do you think of what you've heard so far?
Yeah, I really appreciate the clarity. I tried, like calling into crisis hotlines, and to be honest, I feel like it worsens me. I was better off like reading the Bible or talking to a friend that was grounded, but because I feel like I'm a lost hiker, and then I'm told, well, where do you think the right direction is? And it's like, well, I'm already lost. I don't know where the right direction is. Yeah. And then I get even more agitated. I'm already an angry lost hiker,
Yeah. Cher, have you done any therapy? Have you gotten any counseling to work through some of the pain and the hurt and the fear that you're carrying?
Yeah, I ran out of, my health insurance expired, so I stopped getting into that. But this friend, I did talk with him. I'm sorry I didn't make clear it was a he, but he did apologize, and he did. But the thing is that it's like a pattern. And then he still thinks it's no big deal. And then he, and I don't know, it's difficult with him because in the counseling I did have concerning this relationship, I was told that, basically it's my fault because I'm the one with the triggers, and not very many people put up with that for very long. And I understand. I mean, maybe I don't understand what it's like to be him, but I did work. I spent many years working hard on my triggers and trying to trust, but it's difficult for me to trust him when he just tells me my situation's no big deal. And then he's also told me in other situations when I tell him about hey, I know my one friend said that her friends don't listen to her, and he said, no, I disagree, they listen, but she doesn't even know my friend or her friends or what happened.
For whatever reason, this is a person who cannot tolerate difficulty.
Yeah.
And so
he dismisses.
Yes, so therefore they are not safe with difficult things.
How long have you known this person?
Yeah. Like since almost 20 years, I feel, but we're not friends anymore. He tends to disappear for years at a time because he can't tolerate my mistrust of him. But I'm confused about the trust thing because I'm expected to trust, but is it fair for him to expect me to trust?
Cher, you can only trust things that are trustworthy.
Right. Yeah, he's disappearing on you. That's not very trustworthy.
There are things inside of him that I think probably your pain triggers his pain, and you're dealing with it in very different ways. He deals with his pain with a flight response, which he disappears and avoids and dismisses, because he doesn't have any other coping mechanisms for it. You may be a little bit more of a fighter, but it sounds like you are getting to be a healthy confronter, meaning that you'll face the pain and work through it and do what's necessary. And unfortunately, there's people that don't have much resiliency or tolerance for that, and they become unsafe for our difficulty. And we can have friends in different categories. We can have friends that are more superficial and hang out and not talk about harder, difficult things. But we also need those deeper friendships, people who can be with us in our pain and difficulty and will help us work through it. This is not a person who can do that.
Well, he's proven that over and over again. You said it yourself. It's a pattern.
Yeah, and the key
have the data.
is to expect the right things from the right people. If I expect him to be something that he cannot provide, that's not on him, that's on me.
Yeah. Because he's shown you who he is over and over again, Cher.
Was this ever a dating relationship, or did you guys consider dating or anything like that?
No, we're just friends, but my counselor said it was a serious friendship, and he said he tried dating but nothing deeper. So I think that adds on this layer of, well, it's hard for me to kind of let go of this person. But
know who he is. He's told you who he is. Know who he is. Hold him loosely. If he's just a friend, then you're not going to be expecting much out of him because he doesn't offer much. So if you're okay with him kind of coming and going, but not depending on him for much, okay.
Yeah, that's sound advice. He, there's going to be one more thing I was going to say, and I spaced it. I'm sorry. I feel like he's been a safe person to go to for other members of my family, like my parents. If I talk about the stuff they did, he didn't deny anything and he validated it. But when I talked to him about my younger sister, then he started saying stuff like that. And so it was kind of confusing to me. And then on top of that, I guess I weighed in too much into what the counselor was saying about basically he didn't do nothing wrong and it's just me and my triggers. And people don't deal with that for very long, and that's why he's behaving that way. And it's because it's all my doing, which I do definitely have a significant part in it. But I treated him like he's God and I'm the only one doing the wrong.
Yeah, and here's the thing: is Cher in closer relationships, we make ruptures all the time, and hopefully not repeated. We're not trying to, but just our humanity, our humanness shows up, and it bumps up against each other, and it can cause hurt or damage. But there's also the repair. And so in a world of rupture, we want to be people of repair. Can we repair these things and also grow from them? So that we're not repeating these patterns over and over again, but we also know that if the unhealthy pattern shows up, we can recover from it.
Should we send a copy of Trust?
Yeah, I was thinking that. Yeah. But also I'm thinking maybe he has a thing for your younger sister.
That's what I'm thinking, too. There's an
right?
There's
That's
an
why
affinity.
The defensive.
Yeah, there's an
Since
affinity
he knows your
there.
whole family.
Yeah.
So, I'm thinking that. But I think, too, Cher, keep working on your issues and building up your resiliency and seeing people for who they really are. And that will help kind of dull what your counselor said, that, people aren't going to put up with that. Well, no, not if you're acting out, but if you're actively working on yourself and taking responsibility, healthy people will appreciate that.
Yep.
In this day and age when people are so solo, they have no friends, outside friends, especially guys. So when you have a friend, you just want to hold on to them. But there comes that time when you do have to cut the cord? How do you
Hold
know
them
when it's
loosely.
time?
You just hold them loosely. Let them go if they're going to go.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a really difficult thing, but I do believe that this is where we need wisdom in digging into what are healthy relational characteristics. How do we grow in them? How do we recognize them in other people? How do we have grace and resiliency for when it goes wrong? All of these things they require time and hard work and grit. And unfortunately, I think we live in a time where we've really lost the vision and the resiliency to do close relationship, and we need to recover it.
We want it all quick, too. And it takes time.
There's a lot of entitlement out there, I'll tell you that. Yeah.
Cher, thank you for calling in today to New Life Live. We're going to get to some more questions and have some great conversation on this Friday edition of New Life Live. Thank you so much for listening today. Thank you for watching us as well. And remember that you can support us financially at newlife.com.
We've been married 33 years. We attended the Intimacy and Marriage Workshop. Even though we've read books or attended a few other marriage weekends, this was certainly different and a lot more intensive than initially that we thought.
When you come to Intimacy and Marriage, you're going to be immersed into a 3-day process.
Was not really sure exactly what to expect, but the idea of learning to really understand intimacy was intriguing. We had been in the same patterns of struggle over and over again.
If you've thought, I don't think we can ever change, we're just in this rut and we can't get out, the Intimacy and Marriage Workshop can help you get out of the rut.
The Intimacy and Marriage Weekend is July 25th to the 27th in Washington, D.C. Register online at newlife.com or call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and use the discount code NLL to save $50. 1-800-639-5433.
I would highly recommend it.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found Life Recovery, and one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 Steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 Steps' power comes from the fact that they capture principles clearly revealed in the Bible.
The 12 steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
If you're a man struggling with sexual integrity issues and you're tired of living with shame, help is available through our shame-free Every Man's Battle weekend starting July 18th in Dallas, Texas. Whether you're caught up in porn, visiting strip clubs, or worse, you can sign up for the Every Man's Battle Intensive and learn from therapists who have also fought this battle and come out the other side living a life of freedom from unwanted sexual behaviors. Chris, what are some of the reasons men think they don't need help, that they can conquer this on their own?
The number one reason is a horrific self-deception of willpower. Is that they just believe that they can do it on their own. They believe that there is the resources within them to beat this thing, but it turns into these other denial mechanisms of minimization. It's not that big. Justification. Everyone else does it. And then you had mentioned it. There's the big 800-pound gorilla in the room, and that is shame. If somebody else found out what I'm doing, who I am as a human being would end. Meaning that everything would become crumbling down. There's just so much fear behind that. And that's why I'm always like, man, if you can just come to the end of yourself and make a 20-second phone call, your life can change forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Shame is fueling all of that self-deception, right? Because it's like mortifying that should anyone know, right?
Yeah. And we don't know on that side of it, we don't know the incredible, unexplainable experience of telling somebody else, showing somebody else the dark side of what you've done or you're being part of, your sexual brokenness, and then being accepted, loved, and then guided into a different way. I mean, I was saying, to you before the show that my sponsor early on in life said that, early on, not in life, but in my recovery, that there will be a day that you will be grateful for being an addict. And I'm like, you got to be out of your mind. I just got done like showing him like destruction upon destruction, like heartache after heartache and struggle and shame after shame after shame. And I'm like, this makes no sense.
He said what again?
You'll be you'll be grateful for being an addict. And
trying to process that.
Right.
And I didn't believe him, but today I can tell you 100% I'm grateful for being an addict.
Okay.
Because I would have never have encountered what it was like to come to the very end of myself and in desperation of that powerlessness seek out God's help in whatever it takes. I would have never found myself in rooms where I could tell the most honest, scariest, shameful part of myself and be accepted, be loved, and be guided. I wouldn't have learned all of the principles of how to make mistakes and repair it, how to live a life of more truthfulness and transparency. I don't think I would have been in that place desperate enough to rely on, again, the principles of God and His grace and His presence, the engaging of honest relationship with other people, especially other men in my life, if I wasn't an addict. And so
it forced you.
It forced me. Absolutely.
Forced you to grow.
Absolutely. And it's just a continual graceful reminder that I can't, but God can. God is always there, not as I expect it, not in the time that I expect it, but over and over and over and over, His faithfulness in my powerlessness has just shown up. And it's a grace I can't explain, but I just say, because I'm an addict, I've got to experience it.
Wow. Now, Dr. Jill, you started the program by talking about self-control. And so when it comes to conquering things like porn addiction or whatever, so where's that fine line of, no, wait, I can control myself in this area, and what we're just talking about right now, that no, maybe you can't.
Well, there's that self-deception. And so we think we do lots of things to control, but we utilize substances. We use all kinds of things for controlling ourselves. So that's a little different than the self-control that I was talking about. Having self-control, like as an addict, would be to know that you can't control it and to go get help.
That's exactly right.
Right?
That's exactly right.
That's the self-control, to not take it on yourself and think that you know it all.
Yeah.
And realize, no, God does know better, and I need to go where I can then have the control, in a sense, or support of the group. And in that way, I have self-control. So it's wise self-control, not unwise.
And self-control always looks like, or sounds to like, that I can determine my own behavior at any given time. But true self-control says, myself is out of control here. And as a result, I need help. And so that's why I say, self-control is an operation of a muscle worked out over time. And so a lot of people, a lot of addicts, that struggle with pornography make the mistake of like, I can say no to porn. And I'm like, no. When you're confronted at that moment, you're blown so far beyond your no. Self-control in recovery is learning how to see the road that leads there and not get on the road.
And don't go there. Yeah, don't get on
or
the...
Or as soon as you find yourself on the road, find the exit ramp.
Yep.
And so, and to seek help, seek help. Understanding our limitations, understanding our out of controlness, ironically, is this paradox that leads us to a road of better self-control.
There it is.
Totally agree.
The exit ramp to freedom, to integrity, is in Dallas, Texas, July 18th. That weekend, the Everyman's Battle Intensive. You can find out more about it at newlife.com. You can call 1-800-NEW-LIFE, and if you register by July 4th, Independence Day, you can get an early bird discount. So find out all the details at newlife.com or call us up at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We'll be back with more of New Life Live.
I was stuck. I was so stuck. 27 years married. My husband addicted to pornography for the majority of our marriage. I was very isolated and didn't really know which way to turn.
If you've been affected by betrayal, an emotional or physical affair, or pornography, Restore Intensive will equip you with support and tools to help you through.
When two people want to do their part, we can be restored. But if they don't, we can still be restored. We are not stuck because someone else made a decision. That God lets us weigh in on how we want to walk out our lives. Our wellness does not hinge on another person's decision.
The Restore Intensive is coming to Washington, D.C. November 7th to the 9th. Register online at newlife.com or call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and use the discount code NLL to save $50.
You guys helped me figure out what was going on.
1-800-NEW-LIFE and the discount code NLL. Club New Life changes lives.
You guys came along into my life in 2022. That was a really, really difficult year of my life.
You can help New Life Ministries provide Christ-centered hope and counseling resources to thousands of people by joining Club New Life today.
I began to really process a lot of things that I've needed to for a long time, and y'all were a very big part of that.
When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, you'll make a difference in the lives of individuals and families with godly counsel and connection to help.
I came out of it having never experienced anything like that, and y'all were there.
Join today and help continue the message of hope to a troubled world.
I knew I had to keep going, and I joined Club New Life, and y'all have been the resource that has now been a light for my wife and I.
Go to newlife.com/CNL, and together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places.
Keep doing what you do because it makes a difference.
newlife.com/CNL. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
A couple who was on the edge of divorce got in touch with us here at New Life. A New Life counselor helped them work through their issues, and their family remained intact. I say a couple, like it's only happened once, but in reality, it happens all the time, every day, several times a day, even today. And this helps the kids, too, who now don't have to go through getting caught in the middle of the divorce proceedings and child custody and splitting time between two different homes. Your generous financial support makes it all possible. Help us turn negative statistics into positive statistics by giving to New Life Ministries at newlife.com or by calling 1-800-NEW-LIFE, or you can text NLM to 28950. One-time gifts, monthly gifts, little gifts, large gifts, in-between gifts, they're all put to good use right away. Again, newlife.com, 1-800-NEW-LIFE, or text NLM to 28950. When we are not here in the studio, if you can't get a hold of us during the time we're here, you can also send us your questions, and the instructions for that are on our website, newlife.com/radio. You can leave us a voicemail, you can send us an email, and that's what this person did, who just wants to go by the name Brokenhearted. Her question: how can I forgive myself for failing to seek help that may have prevented harm to my family and myself? Here's the background. Around the time of my courtship and marriage, I experienced emotional turmoil. My therapist of 2 years left the relationship abruptly before he and I were able to explore my history of emotional abandonment. In fact, the way he left exacerbated my battle with abandonment wounds. In addition to the betrayal of my therapist, my mother shunned my intended and me because she disapproved of our short courtship. Without the support of the therapist and my mother, I pushed through the turmoil with little support and much delay. 5 years went by before I could move forward with marriage. Those years of emotional turmoil affected my fertility. My husband suffered with ED. I miscarried twice and carried one child to term. I'm plagued with sorrow about how my failure to seek support in the past has affected my family. My husband and I don't have the family size we've desired. My son doesn't have siblings to cherish, and self-reproach plagues my days. would you be able to offer suggestions that may bring healing? Dr. Jill?
Wow. Oh, I'm so sorry, brokenhearted. That's a long list of things.
Yeah.
But I do find it interesting that, and it's a she, correct? That she is putting all of the weight on her shoulders. And we do that a lot of times out of a sense of wanting to have some control over something that feels so out of control.
Mm-hmm.
And so if it's all our fault, then we could have done something differently and we could have changed the outcome. Versus, okay, and I'm hearing she did seek help, but the therapist left. Okay, so maybe she didn't get into another situation of help, find a new therapist. Okay, and that could have been helpful, but she was battling a lot of things, and we don't get to control how other people react, what they do, the choices they make, and we have to be aware of our own grief. She mentioned abandonment. Okay, so she needed to be able to process her grief. I hear a lot of sadness and grief, and then life didn't go as she hoped. And so she's pointing to this one thing that she did. I think it's way more complicated, and we have less control of all those different variables than we realize we do. I do feel sad if she has been under this impression that if only she had done it different. And we hear this all the time. If only this had happened differently, my whole life would have been different. I think that's a bit of a fantasy that we tell ourselves, because in this life there is both good and bad that happens to us, and we don't always get it to go exactly like we hoped, right?
All the time. You know, the biblical narrative is full of this cycle called redemption. Redemption never goes in the past and corrects it. Redemption only looks to the future and does something different. And to this point, I want to go back to something you mentioned, Jill, is that when painful things happen to us that are outside of our control, we can't handle that. We want to control it.
Yes.
One of the primary ways in which we control that is something I'd mentioned earlier about addiction, but it's shame. There's something wrong with me. I did something.
Yes.
The first line of like, hey, after 2 years, we had never gotten to the core issue in my therapy. I'm like, what is your therapist doing for 2 years? I'm like, I don't want to put it all on this person, but I'm just like, whoa, wait a second here. Then the therapist leaves abruptly.
Without giving referrals, or
I
like,
don't.
what's that about?
I don't know what that's about, but there could be an unethical situation on the therapist part of it. And then here's the thing: what shame does is it lies to you boldly. It leaves you on the hook for not seeking help when that's exactly what you did, and you re-experience the wound. And so this idea that there was something different that you could have done about what happened to you, like, let's say that that's true. There's something that we all could have done differently, but we did what we did in the moment with the resources that we had and we knew. And so brokenhearted, at the heart of this, I love the moniker you've put on yourself, is that the issue isn't regretting over the past, because yes, I do want you to engage in a process of forgiving yourself, letting yourself off the hook. And I also, but as that, I mean, even before that, I want you to engage in a process of working through that abandonment wound. And as a person who has carried an abandonment wound myself, you know, Jill gives us great wisdom in that, and that we must enter into a grief process around it.
Yeah, grieving for what is lost so that you can move forward. Because to continue to beat yourself up and say, if only, right, just creates more loss, because now you're losing today. And so grieving, being sad, reflecting on it, and then letting go of some of this responsibility that you have falsely taken on.
And that regret is actually developing a really kind of dangerous narrative. It's already setting up your own child for disappointment because they're a single sibling. You know? And trust me, we have too many stories in our own offices that show where siblings have actually caused a lot of harm to each other. And I'm not saying siblings aren't good. They're not good or bad, but they're just something different than what you have. And so by that grieving process, that it goes two directions, I believe. It goes grieving the past of what was never there, but there's also this weird living grief. It's the grief that life will not be what I wanted it to be.
Constant disappointment.
Yes, and so can I begin to let go of that and then grab onto hope? Grab onto a belief that it can be something different, but something good.
Yeah, to kind of have a paradigm shift, change your mindset, embrace what you do have. I mean, you went through infertility. Oh my gosh, how wonderful that you have a child.
Absolutely.
And I know lots of single children homes where they love it.
Yeah.
They get all the attention, right? And mom and dad and child just have this great little rhythm together that's really wonderful. And so, okay, there's a downside to things, but there's also an upside.
Absolutely.
And that's what I think moving forward, Brokenhearted, you have to choose to focus on.
Yes. And just to reaffirm, I want to just really champion you and encourage you on that forgiveness route. Forgiving yourself, and eventually in the healing process, forgiving those around you who were supposed to be there for you, but for whatever reason couldn't show up for you and be there for you, and knowing full well, and not just in your head but in your heart, that's not your fault. That's not your responsibility.
All these if-onlys, the would've, could've, should'ves. What do you tell someone who feels that they messed up somewhere back in life and they are now out of the will of God, and they will never get back in the will of God because they went so far off course? They either married the wrong person, or they should have not gotten married at all, or they should have had kids sooner, or they should have gone to a different school, they should have moved overseas, and now they see their life today and they're like, all these regrets I have, if I would have only done things different. God can't change any of this.
I'll say your God is way too small. What you're telling me in that is that your sin and your decisions are stronger, bigger, and more determinate than God's will.
Wow.
I was like, you have a crisis of belief. You don't believe in a God of redemption. You don't believe in the God of the Bible, who takes our messes, who takes our wrong decisions, who takes our wrong directions, and redeems it. And I don't say that from a place of condemnation.
Right.
Hopefully I say that from a place of invitation. We all need to be invited back into this place of faith, and eventually audacious faith, that there is a good God working out redemption in our lives.
Well, and whose will is it really?
Yeah.
It's that we're out of our will for our lives. And that really God just wants us to turn back to Him at every turn. Just keep turning back to Him.
That's a truth bomb.
Another drop the mic moment here on New Life Live.
Do you need help for life's hard situations?
My husband recently said he wanted a divorce.
I'm confused on what I should do.
I have an eating disorder.
New Life Live answers your questions on relationships, grief, addiction, trauma, anxiety, and much more, all from a biblical perspective with our panel of professional counselors and psychologists.
I learned a lot from your program. You help so many people.
I appreciate your ministry.
Whether you listen or watch, there are so many ways to connect with us to ask our panel of counselors a question. Call us Monday through Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific at 1-800-229-3000 to ask your question on New Life Live. Or go to newlife.com/radio for other ways to get your question answered.
I'm trying to find help.
I just want to know how to set boundaries.
If it's a sin, what am I supposed to do?
Need a therapist or a coach, a resource, or an intensive? Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. 1-800-NEW-LIFE. For over 35 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
Your ministry has saved my life.
If you struggle with emotional hurt, family or marriage problems, the pit of depression, or the pain of addiction, we can help.
I'm down 100 pounds now from what I was.
I found a counselor through New Life Ministries, and it's just been outstanding.
Our treatment programs provide clinically appropriate solutions from licensed professionals, all in a biblical framework.
I have had problems with alcohol. I think God has ordained this place to be His his.
You don't have to be a prisoner of your pain. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
She tells me that I'm a new man, and I feel like a new man.
It worked for me, and it can work for them too.
This time it is different.
If you're ready to take the first steps toward genuine spiritual and emotional healing, call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. God can open the door for a better tomorrow.
To get someone that's competent, that's good at what they do, it's been like day and night compared to what I've had before.
Call 1-800-639-5433. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
You want your life to change, the life of your children to change, but you're not sure where to start. Well, step 1, pick up your phone or take it out of your back pocket. Step 2, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Step 3, I'll leave that to the caring person who picks up the phone on this end. They'll show you where to go from here, and it won't be as scary as you think. In fact, I think you'll breathe a sigh of relief. Let June 20th, today, be the day your new life begins by calling us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Here is Grace, who is calling us from Chicago, Illinois, and listening on the New Life app. Hello, Grace. Thank you for calling in today.
Hi, thank you so much for being available.
Yeah,
my name is Grace from Chicago, and I have a very dynamic family situation where I'm here in Chicago. My beautiful kids of 3, me and my husband married for 11 years. And we have 3 kids, 2, 4, and 10. They're in Nigeria as well, and they're in the care of my sister-in-law. So I just wanted to get counsel, but sometimes I don't talk to them every day, so I feel bad. So sometimes if I can't reach my sister-in-law, I'll call, sometimes the head of their teacher, or just try to call the other kids in the house just so we can have some kind of good communication going on with the kids. Just wanted to know, mentally, how should I go about mentally so I'm not feeling, worried or having anxiety separation? Because I think for me, as long as I talk to them every day or see them, I'm more happier, and at peace. I'm like, okay, I know my kids are okay, and they have that contact with me.
Yeah, Grace, what's the circumstance in which you're apart from them?
Money. Finances. Me and my husband, we relocated from America to Nigeria to start a new life and build a farm. And so we have a farm, but the farm is still in the building stage. And so me and him used to take turns to go back and forth to send money down there. So now I came, and I just left them around Easter, so I was there with them. But then I just left because also we have a house here that we need to be sold. There's taxes need to be done. There's some other personal things that need to be taken care of that I need to take care of, and it'd be better if I correct those issues. And then as far as work, I already, have like 2 jobs.
So
so it's just
so Grace, your husband is there in Nigeria, and you're in Chicago.
Correct.
And your children are there. And is this a short-term situation?
Yeah, it's just seasonal. I plan on going back either September, October, depending on, finances. We're working on the savings, the budget.
Okay. So, Grace, I think what you're feeling is perfectly normal. To have anxiety about your kids, to feel kind of disconnected. That is because you're a mother. You have a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 10-year-old.
Yeah. This
is a lot of time away, and I understand that sometimes it can't be helped because of financial concerns. But if there were a way to do it differently, because money is becoming a priority over you being with your kids. And even when moms go back to work, and I was a working mom, you have to detach a little bit from your children in order to sit there for 8 hours and to be away from them. So it's kind of an unnatural process because as a mom, you are meant to be attached and connected to your children. And so that tug of war that you feel inside, or that anxiety, is part of a natural inherent conflict that you have, that all working moms typically have if they are attached at all to their children.
Yeah. Grace, I'm going to take this a little bit different direction, but I think Jill was alluding to it, and that is money is having too big of a will, too much power in your family and your decisions and your family dynamics. I want to also be careful here, right? Because I'm sure the image of me as a middle-aged white guy who probably is perceived
on
as
the radio.
Yeah, on the radio as financially secure. I'm speaking from a place of privilege. That may be true, but I also am a person who has dealt with deep financial insecurity most of my life, a trauma that I'm actually continuing to work on today. And what I had to confront in my own life, because I remember these things where it's just like, well, I have to go off and do this thing. Maybe it's take this trip or work on this project and do this so that I can have enough money to support my family, but then be away from my family or be grumpy or agitated when I'm around my family. And in confronting those things in my own life, confronting that, I was realizing, oh, I'm trusting my ability to earn an income over God's ability to provide. And it's not to say that there isn't a partnership. It's not to say that there aren't very desperate situations that we find ourselves in. But it's also to say that, listen, can we have something else guide us other than the fear of financial insecurity? And it's hard and it's difficult, and please hear me say that. I don't say that from a high horse. I say that from a person who struggles and tries to work this out on a daily basis, sometimes successfully, sometimes unsuccessfully.
Now, Grace, did you tell us, and if you did, I apologize, why is it that you can't see your husband and kids every day or call them on the phone or FaceTime or whatever?
Yeah, and that's why I was reaching out to my sister-in-law. It's not that I can't. It's just that time difference. There's a 7-hour time difference.
Yeah.
Sometimes I call, it's not the right time.
Yeah.
So then I'll say, what's a good time we can talk? So then today I told her, my husband's just going to buy my kids a phone, a Nigerian number, just so they can always talk to me. I can talk to them, not when they're in school, but, when they're out of school, when they're not, learning, just so just so we both have that freedom. So if they want to talk to me, they can talk with me. So it's not like she's keeping me or no one's keeping me from not talking to my kids. It's just sometimes a time difference. Even now, she was just trying to call me on WhatsApp, probably so I can talk to my kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just trying to make sure I have to call her back. So.
Yeah, well, I think that, nowadays we can do the FaceTime, and that really helps a lot.
Yeah.
To try to stay as connected as possible, because you need that. Your kids need that, right? They need to have the rhythm of mom's not here physically, but she's still here. They definitely need to know that.
Yeah, with a 7-hour time difference, that's not but I guess maybe setting a set time. I mean, even if they're in the middle of doing homework or something, where they just say, what, we're just going to set aside a time. The homework can wait for 10 or 15 minutes. I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I love that idea. And I think all of the above. Set a time, and make it consistent. And Jill, as you said, as a mom who's away from her children, know that, hey, it has a purpose and I have to detach as I still love them. And I'm still going to go, Grace, with leaning in on this, seeking God to say, is there a different way for us?
Yeah.
Is there a different way for us to make a living for you?
Can you work in Nigeria?
Yes.
I mean,
can the family
I don't know.
be together and we can find something and discover something?
Or if the farm isn't, I don't know.
Yeah, if the farm isn't working, is there
can you
back?
hire people to work the farm and you all be here?
Well, we talked earlier about the fact that there are moments in life where we come to the end of ourselves and we need God to show up for us where we can't. And this might be one of those moments for you, Grace, that grace does show up for you in a way that's unexpected and a pathway forward where the family can be together and intact and move forward and have the provision necessary to flourish.
And we've come to the end of our program for this week. We will be back on Monday. We'll see you at church this weekend. And Grace, we're going to send you a resource from the newlife.com store for calling us today here on New Life Live. God bless you guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting. And thanks for praying for us and our listeners
Thanks
too.
for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you. But you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433 or online at newlife.com. Please join us again on Monday for New Life Live.